Today we're going to learn about quadrilaterals. As you can see on this slide, there are a few different types of quadrilaterals. The ones we're going to talk about today are square, rectangle, parallelogram. This is also a trapezoid and a rhombus. We're not going to talk about the kite today. It's another type of quadrilateral that's similar to rhombus, but we're only going to deal with rhombus today. So yesterday we talked about a triangle. We said a triangle's total angle sum was 180 degrees. So you could build off of that to find the angle sum of a quadrilateral. As you can tell, I have selected 4 different quadrilaterals, and I've divided each of them in half. And once I did that, I have created 2 separate triangles. Each triangle, we learned yesterday, is worth 180 degrees. So if I added the 2 triangles together, I would get my total 360 degrees for any quadrilateral. Please fill in your own family tree as I tell you the story of the quadrilateral family. Long, long ago, there was a family named Quadrilateral. It was started by 2 brothers named Parallelogram and Trapezoid. The 2 brothers were similar, each had 4 sides, but their own specific traits which made them different. Parallelogram had 2 sets of parallel sides, while his brother Trapezoid only had 1 set of parallel sides. Trapezoid was very unique. After he graduated, he decided to set out on his own to explore the world. He traveled alone for several years and only came home for holidays. Parallelogram went to college and finally settled down to start a family. At first, Parallelogram and his wife had twins. They were named Rectangle and Rhombus. They weren't identical twins. They had similar traits because they were both 4-sided figures. They also, just like their parent Parallelogram, had 2 sets of parallel sides. But Rectangle had 4 right angles, and Rhombus had 4 equal sides. A few years later, Parallelogram and his wife decided to have a 3rd child. They named it Square. This was the perfect baby. Square had the best traits from everyone in his family that had been passed on to him. Square was 4-sided. Square had 2 sets of parallel sides. Square had 4 right angles. And Square had 4 equal sides. Now the quadrilateral family was complete, and they lived happily ever after. So quadrilaterals can be split into 2 separate categories. You can see I have several in blue. All of these quadrilaterals have 2 sets of parallel sides: parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, and square. You can also notice there's one word in green. This word, trapezoid, is a type of quadrilateral which only has 1 set of parallel sides. It is unique and different from all the other quadrilaterals. So looking at the side that has the 2 sets of parallel lines underneath parallelogram, there are 3 types. You have rectangle, rhombus, and square. All 3 of these are connected to parallelogram, so they are all 3 types of parallelograms. So let's look at one type of parallelogram. We're going to take this shape, which is a square. When you look at it, you can easily identify that it's a square because it has all 4 sides equal, and it has 4 right angles. So the best name for this shape is square. But it could also be called a rectangle, a rhombus, a parallelogram, and a quadrilateral. And the reason I know this is because when you look at the tree, all the shapes above it have the same characteristics. So a square is connected to a rectangle. A square has all the traits of a rectangle. A square is connected to parallelogram. So a square has all the same traits as parallelogram. A square is also directly connected to a rhombus. So a square is also a rhombus. And then quadrilateral is all of these, so it is also still a quadrilateral. The only shape that a square is not perfectly related to is a trapezoid. If you ever see a square, you can also name it rectangle, rhombus, parallelogram, and quadrilateral. If you look at a rectangle, I easily can identify it because the opposite sides are the same length. Some people like to say it has 2 long sides and 2 short sides. It also has 4 right angles. If you look at the word rectangle in the tree, all the words that it is directly connected to are also names of it because it possesses those traits. So a rectangle is directly connected to a parallelogram. And then parallelogram, all of these shapes are quadrilaterals. So if I saw the shape a rectangle, I would say that it's also a parallelogram and it's also a quadrilateral. Rectangles are not squares. A square is below a rectangle in this, so you cannot have the traits of the shapes underneath. You can only have the traits of the shapes that are above. A rectangle is not a rhombus because that's a sideways relationship. Only shapes that go vertically have the relationship. So then the shape that was in green is a trapezoid. A trapezoid is the unique shape in the quadrilateral family. If you remember from the beginning, I said it was the only shape that had one set of parallel sides. So if I look at trapezoid in this tree, the only other shape that it's connected to is quadrilateral. So if I saw this one, I would name it trapezoid because it has 2 lines that are parallel, so only one set of parallel lines, but then all 4-sided shapes are also called quadrilaterals. The last thing you're going to have to do today is find a missing angle in a quadrilateral. So we're going to do this the same way we did triangles yesterday. If you think back to the beginning of this presentation, I said that every quadrilateral is 360 degrees. If I want to find out how much this one missing angle is, how do you think we would do it? If you said you would add up the 3 angles that you know, and then subtract that from 360, you would be correct. So these 3 angles added together make 300. If I subtract that from the total that I know I need to get 360, I can then find out how much the one missing angle is. So angle C should be 60 degrees. Okay, so you guys are going to graph some points today on your homework. You are also going to name the shape with all the names that could possibly fit it. And then you're also going to find missing angles. If you need help with your homework later, please ask. I'll be happy to help you.